If we don't act, and if we don't act in the next decade, we may find ourselves and our planet that supports us in deep, deep crisis.
Hi, I'm Ian Golden.
And I'm Robert Mugga.
We, the co-authors of Terra Incognita,
100 Maps to Survive the Next 100 Years. Our understanding of COVID-19 and its grim movement across our planet has really been profoundly shaped by maps. So today we see hundreds, if not thousands of maps at the national, to the international level, but also at the local and even the hyperlocal level, tracking disease case fatalities, the levels of infections, the level of testing, and we're seeing them proliferating just about everywhere. There are maps that are documenting how governments are responding in terms of lockdowns, how citizens are collaborating and sharing ideas and information, how food and services are being distributed to areas that are acutely affected. So maps aren't just showing us the gravity of the problem, they're also guiding us towards some of the solutions that are out there. You can't actually track that pathogen, which is microscopic for obvious reasons, from space. What we're tracking in a way are the corollary impacts of government responses, private sector responses, citizen responses to this disease. The most obvious of those impacts are, really the impacts on pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. And what we've seen overwhelmingly from climate scientists has been a sharp decrease in many greenhouse gas emissions in the short term as a result of COVID-19.
You see this very, very sharp contraction with many airports, particularly the hub airports like Hong Kong, Singapore, London, Chicago, having a 97, 98% decline in air traffic. This really isn't yet normalizing. We at best getting to 50% in some of the Spanish airports, but Hong Kong is still way down, and many, many other places are still way down. So a huge collapse in air traffic. So the reductions are still very much there, and we really can't predict when we will normalize again. Indeed, it might take many years until we get back to the levels of air traffic that we saw in 2019.
It's really quite extraordinary. Seismologists right now say that there's literally less noise around the world. I mean, the hum of public life, trains and trucks and automobiles, literally vanished.
You see these dramatic declines in road use and increase in pedestrianization and cycling in all cities. And the numbers are astounding. Milan, 87% decline in road traffic use. Similar sorts of numbers in Manchester in the UK, similar sorts of numbers in San Francisco, similar sorts of numbers in Los Angeles and New York. It really unprecedented decline globally.
Weekdays have become weekends. Rush hour has essentially evaporated in cities around the world. But it's not just the advanced world, it's also countries like India, which has, I don't need to remind you, 21 of the 30 most polluted cities on the planet. And we've seen huge drops in road traffic use in Bangalore and Chennai, in Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai. And in New Delhi alone, NO2, nitrogen dioxide levels, went down by 60% since lockdown went into effect. Those countries and states and cities that imposed the harshest lockdowns were the ones in which we saw the most stunning, but not so surprising, declines in carbon dioxide emissions. And so, I think China was perhaps the most remarkable and the one that drew the most global headlines because it had recorded already record-breaking levels of pollution before COVID-19 hit. And NASA's Earth Observatory, which tracks the pollution around the world, among other things, detected a stunning decline of nitrogen dioxide over China between January and February when these massive lockdowns came into effect. And what we saw across the entire country, remember only a third of China came under these really quite heavy-handed lockdown measures. What we saw across China was a 30% reduction across the entire country in nitrogen dioxide. But I think what's really important to stress is that these improvements, as incredible as they were relatively temporary. Once Chinese industries and manufacturing ramped back up again, we started to see, unfortunately, levels of pollution rise. It's a quintessentially human desire, if you think about it, that nature is somehow being restored and revived by the absence of human beings. This is an old meme. And the net has gone wild over this idea that somehow the world is healing and that human beings are the virus. And the examples are coming hard and fast. Boars overwhelming Barcelona, goats jumping around in Wales, the canals of Venice, drunk elephants in parts of Yunnan province in China. I don't want to undersell the healing component of COVID-19 and the absence of the activities that have been damaging our physical world and our atmosphere and our water. But I do think it's important that we don't take away from this somehow that we're out of the woods, that somehow climate change and the challenges associated and the emergencies that we're facing are somehow less critical than they were before COVID, because they're not. Hopefully what this has done is helped us understand, appreciate, and realize the incredible value of the natural world to all of us, the importance that, basically our lives are dependent on a healthy planet. And it's so obvious, but somehow forgotten. And this COVID-19 moment has forced many of us to reckon with that and to confront it. And so one hopes that in the midst of this tragedy, we will see a renewed effort to really do what has to be done in the next 10 years, which is to get serious about climate change.
COVID-19 has really compressed time. So this is an inflection point in human history, which calls on all of us to make really tough decisions about our own personal futures, our families and loved ones, and the bigger forces that are affecting the future of humanity. And what we hope the book does by bringing so many dimensions of this together with the visualizations is help people gain perspective and make better decisions.